to the racks every week, keep craving that rush that you get when you flip to the next page. Life is better when you live in between Wednesdays. Yes, say, got a massive back.
What's up, folks? I'm your host, Konrad, on Wednesday Night Reviews, and I'm joined today by Brandon Ingram, who's going to tell us about their new comic live on Kickstarter now. Brandon, thanks for coming on the show tonight.
Thanks for having me. I'm happy to be here, and I do want to say, so people kind of hear this, you are one of the most professional people that I have spoken with in terms of doing an interview or like just talking about comics or whatever. I wanted to wait till the show so people can hear that, so that they can hear that. Yeah, I really love the professionalism and everything you do with it, to where it's like, man, like, this is nice. Like, I like this a lot. So I wanted to say thank you. Yeah.
No, thank you. Oh my God. Thank you. Very much appreciated. For the folks out there tuning in, hearing that great message about me, let's talk about you. So for the folks who have never seen your face, never heard the name, not aware of what your comic is, who is Brandon Ingram?
So Brandon Ingram is a guy in his mid-20s who grew up in South Alabama, then moved to Northwest Florida, which is basically an extension of South Alabama. Oh. It's not like Orlando or anything. Florida is like 3 different countries, basically. South Florida, Central Florida, and North Florida are completely different. And North Florida is basically just Alabama.
Okay.
But grew up there and just got a love for comics, for horror, for all kinds of stuff just growing up through various different avenues. And I have always loved comics, and it wasn't until probably late high school, like whenever I was getting out of high school / when I graduated, that I really enjoyed writing. Like I had to look back and realize, like, I did like writing in like grade school and stuff, but at the time I didn't realize it. But yeah, looking back, I realized that. And then after high school, I just love writing as a hobby, and it's a good, not even saying like stress reliever, but it's a good like thing for me to have that isn't day job or whatever, because I love my day job, but you also need
another outlet,
something else. Exactly. Yeah.
Good to know. I'm glad to hear it. And you know what? It sounds like you love your day job. You've got writing, and if you can find a balance, plus family, friends, all the other stuff that most people have, but writing's your hobby, your, I don't know, part-time profession, whatever you want to call it. That's fantastic. Good for you.
Thank you.
So talking about your writing, we're here to talk about Dismay Avenue, which is going on Kickstarter. So tell us about, I guess, first a little bit about the Kickstarter, what people can expect, and then tell us about the book.
So with the Kickstarter, it launches, or at time of recording, October 18th is when it launched, but it's going to still be available up till November 18th. So an entire month. And there's multiple tiers with this Kickstarter, ranging from $1 to $60. So there's a tier that someone can back on any budget, with anyone's budget in mind. Literally the first issue, it's over 40 pages long. You can get that digitally for $5. You can get both issues digitally, which is over 100 pages of comics, because issue 2 is longer than issue 1. So over 100 pages of comics for just $9 digitally. And then physical copies start at $11, and then there's other tiers as it goes forward. There's even an exclusive t-shirt, exclusive Dismay Avenue t-shirt that people can get. I'm excited about the t-shirt because I really want one. My sister wants one, so I'm excited about that. But for those that don't know about Dismay Avenue is my horror anthology series. it's not the first series that I've published or produced. My first series that is still being made is The Gallows Man, which is like a golden age, silver age parody slash satire of
Okay.
superheroes of that time. But it's still like fun. I'm not like crapping on the superheroes or anything. It's a good fun time. Uh, so working on that, issue 3 will likely come out in 2023.
Nice.
But all that's to say is like this isn't my first rodeo for people that's like is this his first project? Does he have experience in this? That's just to say I have experience with running a Kickstarter, not like a 5-digit making Kickstarter,
We're not all
but
Brandon Sanderson, okay?
exactly. Uh, Not experienced going that far, but I'm still an indie guy, but I do okay. But with Dismay Avenue, my horror anthology series, and specifically with this Kickstarter, it's issues 1 and 2. And issues 1 and 2 specifically are kind of mostly psychological horror with
Yeah.
some cosmic horror elements and some supernatural horror elements. Um, and there's one giant story in issue 1 that's takes up 40 pages. Then there's a 1-page backup, and then issue 2 there's 4 stories that takes up nearly 60 pages, and
Yeah.
then there's some bonus material at the end. Um, and I'm biased in saying this. I like the stories. I like the stories, but I'm the writer, so that's a bit biased. But I will say the artwork in these books is amazing. Each one of the
Yeah.
stories is very, very unique in different artwork. Fits really well with each story. Um, I'm just excited that it's finally here because I've been planning this for so long, and having it here and people be able to actually see some previews on the Kickstarter page and stuff, and then once the book is uh, once the campaign's done and stuff, people are able to actually read it.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm excited about
Awesome. I have to totally agree with literally everything you've said. So first and foremost, for the people watching, right, they want to learn about the book. I would imagine mostly. So I did read them in order because you sent me both of them. So I checked out the first one first, and while it won't pop up for you and I, the folks at home will see this. So the covers for both of them, by the way, are super interesting. The cover for the first one, it's got a white background. It shows Dismay Avenue Presents, and then it's just got these two folks sitting in theater seats with red sort of smeared across it to highlight them. And it's called Program. And the thing that floored me from your perspective as a writer, as also Jade Sky's art, was the sheer atmosphere that you created out of this book. It is spooky. Like, I personally, not a big horror fan. Like, give me superheroes, give me slice of life. I don't really do horror because for me it gets stuck in my head.
it. Yeah.
And the opening page of Program, where it's just the most dreary, horrible looking cinema you've ever seen. It's
Yeah.
dark and nasty. It really set the tone, and as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh God, what did I get myself into?" Um, but you've done such a good job at writing the banter between the couple that go into the theater, and the way that the characters inside the theater, like the people who work there, the other moviegoers, the way that they move about, the way that they just occupy their space and do what folks at theaters do. It creeped the hell out of me. And just how everything evolves. Like I'm trying very hard not to give away spoilers because it's such a cool book. Yeah, you've done a bang up job on this one. I did want to ask, like, one of the first things that came into mind, because the art was so good for it, was, did you write this with Jade in mind, or was that just like a great find after?
Uh, Ultimately a great find after because I wrote the script before finding Jay. I wrote the script and It actually wasn't the first comic I worked on with Jade.
Oh,
The
okay.
little short 8-page comic in issue 2, Raw Horror, that was the first comic I worked on with Jade. That was actually the
Oh.
first comic I worked with an artist on in general. Like, she was the first one I hired, was Raw Horror. And we did that.
Oh.
And as we were wrapping up that 8-page story, I had programmed, like, I had the script on the back burner. And I was like, man, like, I wasn't entirely thinking like dream-like surreal art that is similar to Raw Horror, but I was like, I I think it could probably work with this story. I think it work really well, and uh, hired her to do a couple concept pages. And the first page, it's not entirely a spoiler, but since you've read it, it's a one-page splash where it's Ben and Mia standing looking at each other, and Ben's like, "What the f?" Like he
Oh.
that was the very first page. That was the first concept page I got. I was like,
Interesting.
holy crap, yes. Will you do this book? Can I hire you for this book? And that's how that basically came about.
That's so cool. The irony of this for the folks at home, um, because there's 5 separate stories between the 2 books, and the two that I was drawn to were most programmed because it's the big 40-page whole. It's
Yeah, yeah.
basically the entirety of the first issue, and then the other one I loved for its subtlety. It's not really horror in the sense of like some slashers coming to get you,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
um, raw horror in issue 2 was my other one where I was like, it's just an interesting, different perspective on horror, um, and basically what that character, the soldier, is going through or has got. I don't know what they experience, and it was such a
Yeah, yeah.
subtle thing, that I was like, oh shit, when you hit that last page. So you know what, you've mentioned you've written Gallows Man, or it's behind you. You've had a number of them come out. It's not your first Kickstarter. Um, it sounds like you've done more than horror. So I did want to ask, why horror? I guess as a genre, like intrusive thoughts coming in at you. You're just trying to explore and scare yourself. Like, what draws you to horror over superheroes or something?
I think because I like writing in like nearly any genre or whatever it may be, but horror is the one that comes like most naturally or the quickest for me. Like, I can put out a horror script, like not even just like a short story, like a 5 to 10 page story, but I can put out like a full issue horror script a lot quicker than I can other genres. I don't know. I think it ultimately comes down to I just kind of grew up on horror, like watching a bunch of
Ah,
horror movies and stuff like that, and just really digging it, really liking it, and just kind of branched from there. Because I remember 6, 7 years old, like one of the first scary movies I watched was A Nightmare on Elm Street, but it was on cable. I was
oh
watching
yeah,
it with
yeah,
my dad, so it's like edited. You don't
yeah.
see
It's the TV
too
safe
much
version.
stuff.
Yeah.
Exactly, exactly. But even at like 6 or 7 years old, it's still terrifying. The idea of, oh, this guy, you thought you were safe in your sleep. You thought that was safe time. No, no, no. He kills you in your sleep.
Oh yeah.
And a 6 or 7 year old, it's like, oh crap, mom and dad, can I sleep with you for a few nights?
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, stuff like that. And not saying I love these movies, but I mean, when it comes to memories of watching horror movies, uh, the big one is my cousin coming down and visiting us, and she was a huge horror movie fan, and I was maybe 9 or 10 at the time. She was like 12, 13 at the time, and our parents didn't really want us to watch rated R horror movies and stuff. Rightfully so. Specifically, the one I'm fixing to mention.
Oh god.
We went to a video store back when video stores were still around.
Yep.
Went to a video store, rented Saw 3.
Oh god.
Rented Saw 3. I never heard anything about the Saw movies. She had apparently seen Saw 1 and 2. I knew nothing about them. knew nothing about them. And we go to our uncle's house, who was just, he's fine with us watching whatever. Like
Yeah,
not
it's
nothing like,
you know, yeah.
like he's not gonna let us watch like porn, but like when it comes to horror movies, it's like, yeah, yeah, sure. Watch Saw 3 basically. And so we were watching Saw 3 and I was like, "Oh my gosh, this is crazy." Because it might not be like the most bloody Saw movie, but it has some of like the most
Yeah.
crazy kills in it, the most crazy traps in it. I think it was ultimately a positive experience for me, but I don't know, could have messed up my 9, 10 year old head a little bit. But but all that's to say is I kind of just grew up on like always liking and watching horror stuff. I mean, like even R.L. Stein Goosebumps and stuff like that, like elementary and middle
Yeah.
school. Like I love that. And then once I got in like early middle school, I was like, Goosebumps is for babies. I'm going to read R.L. Stein's Fear Street, which is basically his tween Goosebumps, but it's
Mhm.
nothing crazy supernatural. It's just like all of the stories are almost exactly the same, where it's like group of teenage friends, and one of them is a killer. And you find out at the end, like, oh my gosh, Tommy's killed all of our friends. Oh no, that's half the stories. But I loved them for some reason. Um, but yeah, I've just always really liked horror, just kind of been drawn to it. Uh, my fascination with you had mentioned earlier, with kind of like scaring myself, because I used to like going to like haunted houses and haunted
Okay.
attractions and stuff like that. Um, but I mean, once I got like late high school, maybe this sounds bad, maybe it doesn't. I was almost like numb to like any fear I felt
Mhm.
in like a haunted attraction. Like I still liked going in there because I was like excited. I was like, whoa, whoa, but it was mostly like, whoa, that's a really good special effect. Or whoa, that's really, I wasn't like the person like, oh, like everyone else is scared. I'm just
That's
like,
me.
whoa, I can't believe they set that up. Like how they set that rig up and stuff. It's just, I don't know. I've just always really liked horror. And when it comes to writing horror, I really enjoy, you had mentioned it earlier, kind of trying to scare myself a little bit,
Mhm.
uh, try to scare myself a little bit, or based on other people's fears, build something
Oh.
scary off of that.
Interesting. I mean, I could definitely understand from the perspective, especially because you've absorbed so much horror in your life, right? Like from a young age, watching movies, I mean, reading books, going to things like in Canada, we would have the Halloween haunt at Canada's Wonderland, but
Yeah, yeah,
haunted houses, stuff like that. Um, yeah, if you go through enough of them, yeah, okay, like you kind of know what to expect. You get the patterns. You just sort of understand what's going to happen. You're like, all right, cool, yeah. And then, like you said, you can start appreciating. Oh, this is actually cool. How they built this? How did they set this
oh
up?
yeah,
Um, it's similar to like anyone who watches any type of movie where it's like, cool. I love this film. Let me watch all the behind the scenes stuff and see how they built it.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
I think that's fascinating, especially when you contrast that to Gallows Man, which is like golden age superheroes. I appreciate yours isn't like just straight superheroes; it's a little bit of satire and things like that. But you've seen enough behind the scenes now where you're like, interesting. I want to make
Yeah,
this
yeah.
stuff to scare people. Cool, um, awesome. For all of your different stories, because the sounds of it is you don't write them. You know, oh, I'm gonna make number one, and this is the story that came out. Oh, I'm gonna do number two now, and oh, I have four thoughts here. It sounds like you've got bits and pieces here and there. Um, how many stories do you have prepped and waiting to go for number three?
Uh, three stories for number three, and two of them, the art's already done. Lettering needs to be done for one of those two, and then one of them I need to find an artist on. But so basically, issue three is like 2/3 of the way done, but scripted out, like finished scripts for short stories and anthologies and stuff. I have all the way up to issue seven, like completely scripted out and stuff. Now, in terms of like, oh, will this group of stories be issue 5 or will it be issue 6? I haven't really. I'm still thinking on some of that stuff because some of it's like it's going to different variations of horror because one issue is going to be 3 stories that are just horror comedies. Um,
Okay.
and I'm thinking like, oh, what would be a good issue, good time to put it out, and likely it's weird. That would be like issue 5, and I was thinking like, oh, it could come out in sometime like a summertime, maybe not 2023 summer, but a summertime because all 3 of those stories are like summer based, like they're
Oh,
like in the
okay.
summertime. So
Huh.
it ultimately comes down to as I'm figuring out what stories will be in an issue, then deciding like, okay, which issue will it actually be then?
Yeah, you know what? From a perspective of like that's editorial work that at that point that you're doing, right? What story goes in where? I never considered that. That's really cool to know that, you know, what setting are these stories in time wise? Should I release it then? Or thematically, are they similar types of horror? Should I group that?
Yeah,
Fascinating.
that's a major thing is like if there's a story in this chunk of stories that feels not super similar to a story in issue 2, but let's say it like similar themes, I might not want that issue to come out and be issue 3 because you read issue 2, now you're reading this. It's like, that story feels a little bit the same. There
Mm-hmm.
kind of needs to be that space, that time apart. And also things that go on in my head is like, okay, I want to have it evenly spaced to where like the first issue was pretty much one story. Second issue was like 4 stories. um, I kind of want to have it spaced to where it's like one whole story, but like in terms of an issue, one issue is one giant story, 2 issues are a collection of stories, and then after that 3 issue cycle, one big story again, and continue that way.
Huh. That's so cool, Brandon. Like, it's fascinating to learn. Like you said, you ended up with horror liking the behind the scenes stuff and figuring out how it was built. I like that for comics, and a lot of the people that I talk to, they do basically, you know, a standardized comic where it's one story. Um, so it's fascinating to get to speak to someone who's doing an anthology like this.
Thank you, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. So I have 2 questions that I want to ask. So I guess first, based on everything we've talked about so far, um, wow, that question just left my brain. Okay, next question.
Sorry
Um,
about that.
it happens. So for Dismay Avenue 2, it's basically evenly split among 4 stories, more or less. And they're each all very different. And the one that Jade Sky did for you, Raw Horror, um, like I said, it jumped out at me because of the twist at the end and just basically what it's about. Um, it being the least fantastical, the least uh, classic horror, I guess. What inspired that story?
uh that's the thing is, I've always, the main kind of theme of it of what is going on, like possible dream, like possible uh walking towards the light, whatever it may be. I've always thought of a doing a story like that.
Mm-hmm.
And also part of that, that wasn't the main reason. The main reason was, when I first wrote that, it wasn't a comic script. There was a film contest, like a short screen film contest, where you turned in a 3 page or less script, which is basically, it equates when it comes to like short films and stuff, like 3 minutes or less. And I was trying to make one that was fairly decent. That was only 3 pages. And when it comes to film scripts, that's tough. At least for me, that's tough. And kind of came from there. Like I had that little idea in the back of my mind of that dreamlike, maybe going towards the light type story, and it kind of just fit in when I was entering that film contest, that
Oh, okay.
screenwriting contest.
Fascinating. I mean, I'm so glad you were able to turn it into a comic, because
Oh yeah,
it
yeah,
works
yeah.
so good. Like I said, from the issue, the 4 stories, that one really jumped out at me. Um, or, gripped my mind. It didn't.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The other one that I loved, and I just want to. It's not. Because Tolls the Bell is really good too. I think it's Destination. Um, the one with the little girl who gets
The
yeah,
triangle.
that too. That
Yeah,
is
yeah,
such a cool story.
yeah.
I think me personally, like stories like that where nothing nothing in the external world inherently comes to harm a character. Instead, this
Yeah.
character gets themselves in trouble. I always kind of like those stories, and yeah, that was just fantastically done. Again, I'm trying to
Yeah,
so
and
hard,
that
like
one, well, with that one, it's because I was thinking back at the end of issue 2, the one person that does read this, I don't expect anyone to. This is more for my own self. At the end of issue 2, there's like a 3 pages of like behind the scenes notes that I have, kind of like influences and different stuff with me writing comics and some of these stories. And what I wrote in there regarding that one specifically, maybe I didn't write it, so maybe this is like new information, but I was in the nursing program at the time. Like I was going into nursing school. Ultimately, I'm not a nurse now.
oh, okay.
I withdrew and changed majors. I was in nursing school, and I was sitting in class lectures one day. And at this point, ultimately, thank you for all the nurses out there. Like what you do is amazing, and it's very, in my opinion, uh, underappreciated. Um, they do a lot. Doctors do a lot, but it's kind of the nurses that keep things afloat at
Oh, yeah.
hospitals and facilities. Um, so thank y'all. But I have to preface that first because I hated going through nursing school because I didn't have a passion for it. Like if you're going to be a nurse, you got to have a passion for it. And ultimately, I didn't have a passion for it. I got into it for job security because
Yep.
there's always open nursing positions everywhere. And then decent pay, not amazing pay, but pretty decent pay that you can live off of. So this was towards the end of me being in the nursing program. I was like kind of miserable at this point. I was just like in class. I was doing the test, like getting A's, getting B's and stuff. I was just like
Yeah.
it felt almost like soul draining because my heart wasn't. And in one class, we were going over something, and I was kind of paying attention, and then part of the idea of destination came in my head of an instrument. The first idea was like an instrument that when you play it transports you to another time or another dimension. And like that kind of popped in my head. And I like, I wrote it down on my phone to be like, oh, I'll go back later, look at this idea, flesh it out possibly. I wrote it down on my phone and I sat there in class for like 20, 30 seconds. And I was like, I really want to write this down. So I got up out of my desk or out of my chair and I just like walked out of class. And I didn't like go like super far away. I just like was in the same building and just
Yeah.
sat down and was just like typing away like a rough draft of the story kind of. So that's kind of how that came about. I in those behind the scene pages, I don't think I said all of that in there. So there's some more information.
Well, thank you. It
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
it's so cool to get to hear like where stories come from, the frame of mind you're in, what you're doing, um, because I can definitely see where like if you're sitting through arguably probably a very hard class regarding medical information because you're going to become a nurse. You're not really passionate about it. You do want to be good at it though, so you're studying, you're trying to pay attention, do your best,
Yeah, yeah,
and you're just like, I just don't want to be here. Like I can see how that led to the idea for the story.
yeah,
That's just so cool. So yeah, thank you for sharing that.
yeah. Thank you.
To shift gears a little bit, when it comes to the comics being made, uh, I have 1 and 2 right here. In the back of 2, it even shows like coming next, and then you've got 3, and then Gallows Man 3 and 4. Normally, for the folks out there at home who have never done a Kickstarter before, I recommend that you do. But if you've never done
Okay.
one before, normally the process with a Kickstarter is a creative team or a writer will go, hey, here's my cool idea I want to turn into a comic. Or maybe they're building some device or whatever. But for comics, it's here's my script. And then they
Yeah,
go, I'm going to do a Kickstarter so that I can get money to hire an artist to get it made, get it published, and send it to you. You, however, kind of, you have the books. So I guess what I'm curious about in your situation is, do you have the funds out? Like, is this just out of pocket? Do you have like a kitty slush fund you've got going on where you can just go, oh, here, I can pay an artist? Or is it, Gallows Man 1 did well enough, you had some left over, dip it into Gallows Man 2. Oh, Gallows Man 2 came out, but I want to make this horror comic. Let's dip it into that. And then keeping it sort of afloat. Like, not that many people have it done first. So I was wondering, how did you come up with that? Or how did that happen?
ultimately, all of this is out of pocket. The comics I've done so far are out of pocket. Now, if it builds up momentum and steam over so many years or whatever, then it might not be the case. But no, when it came to doing Dismay Avenue 1, Dismay Avenue 2, because those were the first comics I was creating, but not the first ones that were put out there for
Oh,
people to do and stuff. Because Gallows Man kind of, we started working on that in the middle or towards the end of working on Dismay Avenue number 1 and 2.
interesting.
Um,
Okay.
but, but, uh, but yeah, it was ultimately me really wanting to make these comics, and I've always loved comics. And at first, at the very first thing, Dismay Avenue was just going to be like 1 issue, and I was going to do some story. I didn't even entirely know like program would be its own issue, or these
Okay.
4 stories will be 1 issue. But at the very beginning, I was like, I want to do 1 horror comic, just 1 issue as like a bucket list thing. But then as I got into like doing the research, putting the time into learning how to make comics, and reaching out to artists, like even before hiring the artists that you see in this book, right before that, I was like, crap, like I want to do this more than just a 1 issue bucket list thing. Like I want to do like a bunch of stuff. I've got a bunch of ideas, a bunch of stuff I want to put out. I don't want it to just be 1 issue and I check it off a bucket list. It's like, no, I want this to be like my main side gig. And if it goes well in the future, like a main gig. But even if that doesn't happen, I love doing this. I love doing it, even if it is just a side gig, even if I never see a profit. I just love doing this, and
Hmm.
that, and I would likely do it no matter what. But the engagement and the encouragement that I've seen with people that have read the books, like the small community that's built, and them liking it, and wanting to see more from this series or more from that series, or just want to see whatever I put out, whatever Disney Comics puts out, that does help a lot. That is very encouraging. It's like, oh, okay, like I wanted to do this no matter what, but seeing other people kind of dig it, kind of like it, it's like that's encouraging. And
Oh yeah.
and all that's to kind of say is like, even if I continued to pay out of pocket and not make a profit, because ultimately when you're a small indie, at least like me, you're not seeing a profit. Like usually the Kickstarters, like these Kickstarters, they pay for the books
Yep.
that people will get, and it'll also allow me to get some additional books that I can take to conventions or have for future Kickstarter, like Dismay Avenue #3 or whatever. I have some extras in case someone has never read Dismay Avenue. They can jump in, which you can jump in on any issue, but maybe they're like, well, I'd like to pick up all three. But yeah, when it comes to uh, making money back off of paying artists or anything, that doesn't happen, but I'm okay with that because I just love this so much, and I just want to keep doing it, keep putting books out. All that's to say, basically, if you're getting into comic creating, at least the first couple of years, maybe you're an overnight success or something. If you're getting into it, at least for the first couple of years, don't expect a profit. Don't be doing it for a profit. That is a big thing. Don't be doing this for a profit. Even the professionals, the pros, the people that like are doing like Marvel, DC work, some of them, it's not entirely their day job. Like it covers a lot of the bills, doesn't cover all of them though,
Yeah.
or they have like other jobs and stuff. So if you're looking to get rich off of making comics, that's a 0.001% of comic creators. If you love it, if you enjoy it, you want to just create. You want to put your work out there. If you make a profit, good. If you don't, you're still happy with it. That's ultimately what it comes down to.
Normally, Brandon, I save a question for the very last question of my interview, which is, what do you want people to know? And some people take that as a chance to go, check out the Kickstarter campaign, follow me on Instagram, and like that's totally cool, right? Like that's what that space is for. Shout yourself out, get yourself publicized, get people to back you. Other people do what you just did, which is like give very heartfelt, honest, and very true statements, life lessons, advice. So thank you.
Thank you.
I think you couldn't be more correct, because I have spoken. I don't even know. I've been doing this for about 3 years now, and the vast majority of people that I've spoken with, just like you said, they are doing this because they absolutely love it. They don't know what else they would do with themselves, and I've been very fortunate that a few of them have been picked up. Not that I'm associating my name, having anything done with it, but like 2 of them have been picked up by Scout Comics, for instance, which is super cool. Yeah. So it's you're correct. You're right. Make comics because you love them. Income will come later. If you can hit a point where comics pay your every bill, gorgeous. If not, at least like you said, you're gonna end up with a product you love.
Exactly.
Yeah. Then you know what? Important thing, because a lot of people, when they back a Kickstarter campaign, especially if it's their first time, one of the things that makes them, fill out all the information and get to the point of hitting that pay button and then stop is, what if I don't get it? So one, folks out there, there is a redundant, sort of protection there, where if it doesn't actually get backed, you don't have to pay for it. But
that is a thing, though. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah.
Whenever I first started making Kickstarters, when you're first, even as a comic creator making a Kickstarter, you don't know that initially until you've created the page and you're like, oh, their cards don't get charged until the end of the funding, if it gets funded. Because a lot of people still believe that, once they pledge, their card was charged just then. It's like, no. If it's successfully funded, it gets charged as soon as the campaign is over.
Exactly. So one, there's that. So don't be afraid of that. On the end of, in this, I like to ask this question to just sort of mitigate a little bit of fear and make it easier. So, if someone goes out, they check out the links down below, go to your Instagram page, or not Instagram page, Kickstarter page. They hit back this project. They type in their information. They choose their tier. They hit pay. They get their email that says you've pledged X number of dollars to Dismay Avenue 1 and 2. What is the rough timeline from that point? Well, the end of the campaign is the 18th of November, you said, right?
Yes.
So as of, say, the 18th of November, if all goes well and publishing and printing doesn't have any hiccups, which I knock on wood.
Thank you.
Whoa. Knock on wood, you don't have. What would be the timeline from, pledge collected on November 18th to they can expect to have their copy of their comic, whether it be digital or physical?
Yeah, so like you had mentioned before, and I forgot to mention it before, but I'm glad you did. These comics are done. Like, issues 1 and 2 are done. That was my whole rant of paying out of pocket, is because I want them done. As well as when it comes to making a Kickstarter, especially starting out, this is just my mindset. You're starting out, like, have it at least almost done. I like to have it all done, but have it at least like 90% of the way done, because you're like a new guy. Like, you're a new guy in town. Like, you don't have the build up or the clout or the trust that someone like Todd McFarlane has with people or something like that. Like, Todd McFarlane could literally just like just do a quick sketch of like Spawn or something like that. And it's just on a sheet of paper, lettered paper. I'm not talking art paper, just a lettered copy paper. And he's like, here you go. I'm doing a Spawn miniseries, back to Kickstarter. And like people would do it. Like, he doesn't have to do anything else. People would back it because he's built up that trust, that clout, all that stuff over the years, to where Todd McFarlane delivers, and he will deliver. Now, here's the thing: Todd McFarlane isn't that lazy. He's not just going to have a campaign where it's just Todd McFarlane is like, whether you like him, hate him, you got to admit he is a hustler. He is a really great businessman when it comes to comic making. He's done a lot for the comic community. So he would make sure the Kickstarter looks as pristine as it can be. But I say all that I'm a small fry. I want to have this stuff basically guaranteed to people, like, hey, as soon as the Kickstarter is over with, like, you're going to get these books soon. Like you had mentioned, printing, maybe there's an issue there. Usually not, but maybe there's an issue with shipping. I don't have control over the United States.
Exactly. Yeah.
Maybe there's an issue there. There usually isn't. But aside from that, the books are done. You're going to get the books. And this is also just my mindset now, because I'm not doing this for profit, because I pay out of pocket and ultimately just want to get books to people and get some additional books so I can have for other Kickstarters in the future. Yeah. My stretch, or my initial Kickstarter goals are usually low, to guarantee to people that, hey, this is going to happen. Like because like with this one, it's $500 initial goal. I want it to go higher than that. I expect it to go higher than that, but it's $500 initial goal because I know there are a group of people that want to see this happen, and in the very tiny likelihood that it didn't get funded, if it was like a $2,000 stretch goal or something, like, I don't want them to be like, oh crap, like, I guess you gotta wait another year when he does another Kickstarter to try to revive it or whatever. It's like, no, I want it to be a guarantee and get these books to people. Now, the $500 goal is there to basically relieve some pressure off of people, basically be like, okay, the book is happening. Like,
Yeah.
I'm going to get it, because I'll have to check in a little bit before I got on here. It was like 6 hours. We were at like $435. So within the first 24 hours, we'll hit 500. So it's a guarantee you'll get the books. It's a guarantee that books will be printed and stuff. My in head goal with all of these Kickstarters is 1,000. I want to hit 1,000 with each Kickstarter, but that's in my head. That's just my in head goal right now.
Yeah. Well, just to let you know, you're currently at 20 backers. Mind you, it's showing me Canadian because I'm up here in Canada, but you're at
I got you.
639 out of 684 Canadian. Let me see if I.
Oh, that's really close.
Yeah, that's
Here, I've
real
actually got it right here. Let me hit refresh.
Yeah, go for it. Yeah.
Let's see here. Oh, 467 out of 500. So literally $33 left. And that'll happen within 24 hours. That'll happen tonight, basically.
Nice.
But yeah, like I like to have that guarantee for people. Like I mentioned before, my in head goal is $1,000 with each of these campaigns. That's in my head though. And then like as bonus objectives, because I used to love playing video games and there was always bonus objectives with them. My bonus objective is to surpass the previous Kickstarter, basically.
Oh, okay.
And basically once that happens, it's like, okay, I just want to see where it goes from here. Like, because that happened with Gallows Man issue 2 Kickstarter. Because with that, because that was earlier this year in May. With that, I was like, okay, my in head goal is 1,000. We broke 1,000. I was like, okay, my bonus objective goal is beat the previous Kickstarter, which was 1,094. So I was like, if we just get 1,095, I beat that bonus goal, and we surpassed that by like a couple $100. And I was like, oh well, yeah, sure, let's just see where it goes, because my bonus objectives were accomplished. I was like, yeah, let's just see where it goes. But I know that's me rambling, but it's basically my way of saying, like, you're going to get the books, people. And to answer your question, because I ramble so much, people can expect the books and all the materials, digital copies, all that stuff, February 2023. Now, here's the thing. I purposely do this on Kickstarters because I've seen it with other people recommend it. Like whenever I started doing research for Kickstarters before I made one, you'll likely get them before February of 2023. Like you'll likely get them late December or January. But I put that February 2023 in the incident of stuff like you mentioned, like there's printing issues and I gotta recall them and they gotta reprint them and all that, or if there's shipping issues or whatever it may be. So I have that as like a little cushion just in case those issues pop up. But likely it'll be late December, January when people will get these books.
Nice. You know what? That's fantastic. Like one thing that, and again, it's a matter of just I've spoken with enough people that like who are running Kickstarters that I understand this now. Printing can be difficult because if your file is not perfect, or maybe the printing, the publishing house didn't quite exactly say, hey, this has to be this exact number of pixels by this, and you can get a print where like super dark page has like a white line because the page didn't get print on it or something weird. Like, it's just such a pain. So I that's why like I said, knock on wood, I hope printing is that easy. They accept your file, they're cool, no problem, print it, done.
Yeah.
You get your books, you can sign them and send them. Yeah, that's fantastic.
I wanted to mention a bonus thing for people is like, along with what you're saying, is each printing company, it's going to look completely different, your book, because I have used multiple printing companies for like one book, and it's all the same book. There's no issues with it, but like you said, some the colors are a little bit darker. Some it looks a little bit faded compared to this and that sort of stuff. And ultimately, it's trying to like pick, okay, which one do I go with now? Which with Dismay Avenue, I already know which one I'm going to go with because I've already
Oh, nice.
done all those testings of all of them. But yeah, I'm going with one that basically can capture the colors the best. Like the colors pop, like they're bright, they pop.
Good.
Because there's another one I used for the Gallows Man, and that printing company works well for the Gallows Man because Gallows Man is very much like retro aged type field or book, I should say. And so the pages themselves, when they're printed from that company, they look not faded or anything, but there's a more retro color to it compared to other printers. So
Okay.
that works well with the Gallows Man. But in my opinion, that doesn't work the best with Dismay Avenue. So I use this other printing company for
Oh,
Dismay Avenue because what I want with that are the colors to really pop. And this company over here can make that happen better.
Brandon, thank you so much for on every conceivable level. And I truly mean this. Like you're considering, I'm sure when you're picking an artist for a story, you're considering, okay, what is the story about? What does it need to look like? And is there style right? Your the consideration you're taking for Kickstarter folks out there who are backing it, the books are done. That means like they'll get them fast.
Yeah.
Um, you're even going to the extent of like with this type of story, it needs to look like this. It needs to feel like old newspaper print. It can be kind of that weird faded. I don't have one on my desk right now. Old faded golden age look. Like
Yeah. Yeah.
for you as a creator to be like that mindful, it just speaks to your level of professionalism and thank you. People like you make comics amazing. Um, yeah, it's just awesome. So thanks.
Thank you. It ultimately comes from what was like an unhealthy need for perfectionism.
Yep.
At a point, it was that. I've gotten better over like the
Mm,
past year with that.
good for
But
you, man.
yeah, thank you. Yeah, but it was just like that every tiny little detail, but it became so much, and the the stresses that come with like trying to be such a perfectionist. Um, but it ultimately came down to these books are done. You myself, I can critique them constantly. I'll make a critique and then like edit it, and that critique is fixed. Next time I read it, I'm going to find
Yeah.
another critique, another thing that I think needs to get edited. That's just going to keep happening. And if that keeps happening, it's like, oh, the book hasn't been put out in 5 years. The book hasn't been
Yeah.
put out in 10 years, 15 years. It's just that constant thing. It's like, it's at a suitable level and people will enjoy it. Yes, when I read it, I'll still see some bits here and there, but most of the people reading it either don't care or don't see those little things.
Yep.
So it's like you just have to get past that. And the past year, it's really helped me in kind of shedding that a bit.
Good. That is so fantastic. It's also hilarious that you said that. The other day, I was talking with my partner and I sent them a meme that I saw, or not a, I don't know if it's a meme anymore, but you know, basically someone who was like, "Hey, so I suffer with OCD and perfectionism. I've been going to
Mm,
therapy, which is great for this person and great for you, by the way, for over the last year overcoming it." And they were literally like, and because of it, you know, I tend to overwork things, and they're like, and this is what has gotten me through this during COVID. And on their top of their monitor, they have two sticky notes, which is it literally says, "Just half ass it, it's gonna be fine." And I'm like, yeah, because like someone who's driven enough to do anything, right? If you're passionate about something, you're really working on it. Half-assing it is not half-assing it. It's
yeah,
giving you
yeah,
the license to go, this thing is actually done. I can stop and just let it be. Um,
yeah.
so good for you, because I know that's not an easy thing to do, especially if your brain wants you to make it perfect, make it perfect.
Yeah.
So we've pretty well, Brandon, covered everything I can think of. I do like to ask, before I jump into the fun questions, is there anything else that you want the folks out there to know about the campaign, or anything that you feel like we've maybe missed?
No, I think we pretty much covered everything. Just look up on Kickstarter Disney Avenue number 1 and 2. There's tiers ranging from $1 to $60, a tier in everyone's budget. Check out the books. I maybe this is dumb on my part, but I'm not trying to say I'm for the people. I'm not Bane. I'm not saying like, oh, you, the people. But I do like to keep others in mind, and I know there is an international audience, and I know there's people from Canada, UK, Sweden that have picked up these books before. You don't have to do this, but I recommend you get the books digitally, just because of how expensive shipping is. Shipping is very expensive internationally. That's just how the United States Postal Service is. You can get the books physically. I'm happy if you do, but if you're on a budget, get the books digitally. It's completely fine. You're still able to read them. I love reading them physically too. I know some people are like, but I love reading it physically. If you have to have it physically, get it physically. But just to help your wallet a little bit, consider getting it digitally, because it is a lot cheaper because of that shipping.
You know what? I think that's wonderful and true. I'm a big fan of physical media myself. And I will say, as someone who maybe I'm a little too hard-headed about it, I love hard copy. The books look great digital. So folks out there who are going to get it digital, it looks great. So like, don't even worry about it. Then you know what? Yeah, Brennan, I've got, I guess, 3 last questions for you.
Yeah.
So behind you is a beautiful bookshelf. You've got Gallows Man. You've got Dismay Avenue number 1. Yeah, that's the cover for program.
I also got it right here.
Oh, yeah. Beauty. Often I do find that people who create comics also collect comics. It looks like you've got Vagabond up there on the top shelf, followed by Berserk. I can't quite...
Which I want to say...
Oh, yeah.
I'm grateful and thankful that you at least know about Vagabond.
I've got... You can't see it. I've got volumes 1 through 6 at the bottom of my shelf over here.
Nice.
I'm trying to find the rest. It's very hard up here.
Some of the volumes are tricky to get, but I do want to say I'm grateful that you do know that, because a lot of people know Berserk, and again, Berserk is really good. Berserk is very, very, very good. It's the second best manga in my opinion.
Oh.
My personal opinion, I like Vagabond the most. I love Vagabond. Like, not even manga. Like, when it comes to comics, manhwa, like Korean, like webtoons and stuff like that, or manga and all that. Vagabond is definitely in my top 3. If not my number 1, it's definitely top 3 of any of those, because Vagabond is just it's so good. It's not even finished. I know that it's not finished. There's a hiatus going and all that. If it never gets finished, it will still stay up there, because I know where the story is going.
Yep.
I know what's likely going to happen. I do want to see it, but from all the stuff I've seen so far, it's like I'm content if we don't get any more. I do. Obviously, I want some more.
Oh, hell yeah.
If we don't get any more, I love what we got.
I know that feeling so well. For the folks out there, clearly we both love Vagabond. For the folks out there who don't know, Vagabond is the manga which tells the story of Miyamoto Musashi, one of Japan's most legendary warriors, if not greatest warriors.
warriors, riders, philosophers.
Yeah, basically the Book of the Five Rings is what the real person Miyamoto Musashi created. It's been translated a bunch of times. You can get it in probably every language in the world. I actually have a copy of from Eiji Yoshikawa. I have a translation of the book called Musashi, which is the actual novelization of the
Yeah, yeah,
book.
that's awesome.
Yeah, the artist on Vagabond, I am forgetting his name. He's one of the most popular manga artists in the world, I think.
Yeah, oh yeah,
Um,
because he did Slam Dunk. He's doing Real. There's a bunch of other stuff, but basically he has a few titles that are in a lot of top 50 manga lists of all times. That's just how good the guy is. So
yeah, if you haven't, check it out. Ideally, purchase a copy somewhere, whether it's digital or physical. Get a membership to a subscription service that pays them ultimately. Like, support the creator because fabulous. But yeah, it's just a damn good book. So yes, my question to you, Brandon. Like I said, you got a lot of cool stuff there. What would be like the one thing that you would say sort of sums up your collection? If you could only show me one thing to say, hey, this is the key piece, the big thing, what would it be?
uh, that sums it up. That's a good point. Let's see. Here, I'll get this. It'll be this book right here, most likely. Even though I read it within the past year, um, there's a lot to it. It's Tom King's Superman Up in the Sky.
Oh, okay.
Uh, there's two elements here. Superman's my favorite superhero character. I love Superman, um, and I love Tom King as a writer. Like Tom King, I know people are 50-50 his Batman run. I haven't read all his Batman run. That's not the stuff I love Tom King for. What I love Tom
Oh,
King for is when he does like mini series or like 12-issue maxi series. The guy is a master at that stuff.
yep.
Like Mr. Miracle, the Visions, Sheriff of Babylon, the Omega Man. Uh, I will say Strange Adventures is the lowest on my list for him, but Strange Adventures is good. Um, just a little bit iffy with some of the last few issues, but yeah, it's just amazing. And so combining Tom King, one of my favorite comic writers, and my favorite superhero character, worked out perfectly
Nice.
because this is some people are going to hate me if you're a Superman fan. I say that because people say they love Superman and all they've read is All Star Superman and a couple Alan Moore stories,
Yep.
all of which are great. There's more Superman stuff there.
Lots
And
more.
I say all this because this is a 2 or 3 year old book. And me so far, right now, that doesn't even sound proper English. Me so far, uh, so far, I am going through to see what is my favorite Superman book, and I'm picking up a bunch of trades
Oh, cool.
because in high school, All Star Superman was it.
Yep.
But that was before I read a bunch of Superman stuff. I still really like All Star Superman, but I reread All Star Superman recently after having read this, and I was like, All Star Superman is great, but this is better.
Huh.
I like this better than All Star Superman. And so it almost like caused like a rift in my Superman ranking mind of like, crap, well, now I have to figure out what is my favorite Superman book since All Star Superman isn't it. And so I've just been binging Superman stuff and even rereading stuff I love. Like the thing I'm currently rereading is Superman for All Seasons, which is a
Nice.
great, great Superman book. Amazing
Oh.
Superman book. I'm halfway done rereading it. I've always really liked it. I'm liking it as I'm reading it. I'll have to wait till it's over, but so far I still think this might be the top. There's two other books I got to read to see if they
Yep.
defeat it because I need to reread Superman Smashes the Klan. I love Superman
Oh,
Smashes the
such a
Klan.
good fun book.
Yes, it's so good. And then I need to reread Superman American Alien, which is really good. I really love that book. Those are like the last two contenders. And I'm not like trying to be biased and say like, oh, it's going to beat them. If those beat it, I'm okay with it. But in my head, I just have to figure out what is my favorite Superman book. And so far, it's this one. Kingdom Come is a close second. It's second place. I had a debate with someone recently. Kingdom Come, yes, Superman is an integral part of that story. I don't know if it's entirely a Superman story. I consider Kingdom Come a Trinity story. Some people consider it a Justice League story. Some of the Justice League members are like background characters. It's a Trinity story. Batman, Superman, and Wonder Woman are the main characters of that. And Shazam. Shazam also as well. But that is a Trinity story. And because of that, technically, I don't know if I can have it on the Superman or not. Again, that's the crazy brain that likes to be a perfectionist, coming up with random lists that only matter to himself. But so yeah, ultimately, this book has done a lot for me recently and kind of shaped the past few months of my reading habits.
I love it. You know what? It's fantastic to see someone nerd out. That's the only word I can think of for it. And I agree. As someone who I love Alex Ross's work, Kingdom Come, the three books he put out, Batman War on Crime, and the other two, the Superman and Wonder Woman books.
Yeah.
And Justice. I love those books. Like, folks, if you have not read them, you don't even need to really read them. Just look at them and you'll.
Yeah,
wow.
it's some of the best art ever.
Yeah, but I totally agree. They're not. The Kingdom Come is not a Superman book. I would say it's a Trinity book. I would lean towards Justice League more because it has to do with more superheroes. But
yeah,
agreed. It's not. I don't think it's Superman. And you know what? You've kind of already answered the next question, which is going to be, what are you reading? So clearly you're enjoying some Superman.
I'm enjoying some Superman. I do have one floppy. I haven't picked up like Marvel or DC floppies and like since Future State.
Okay.
Like, not that I didn't like Future State. I liked Future State. It just did a lot on my. It did a lot on my wallet, so I had to kind of stop because I was buying like all the books because I was like, these are really good. And then within 2 months, it's like, oh crap, I spent like $500 on comics.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, but I picked up one recently. It's a Star Wars comic, which I've never picked up a Star Wars comic, but it's Star Wars Visions #1.
Yeah,
I picked it up because the Visions show. Brandon personally, like me, this is how I feel. Everyone has their own favorite Star Wars thing recently. But the past 2 or 3 years, Visions to me has been the best thing. I love Visions. I'm looking forward to season 2 coming back in early 2023.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Yes.
I looked it up because I had to make sure. I was like, is this happening? And so far, it seems like spring 2023. But I love Visions so much, and I really like the duel story, the very first one. Where it's the samurai and all that, or the Ronin. And I haven't read the novel. They came out with a novel. If it comes out in audiobook form, I'll pick that up because it deals with specifically the duel and that character there. But when I heard about this, like literally the day before it came out last Wednesday, I had to pick it up. And I read it, and I really enjoyed it. The art is absolutely beautiful. Because it's very much like manga, black and white art style. Because I think it's the same animator that did, or animating director that did the episode. He did the art for the book.
Based on the cover, it looks like it. Yeah,
it's really good. And yeah, what's also good is like uses of lightsabers and blasters. That's where the color comes in, and it really makes it stand out. I really like the book. I'm a little disappointed in Marvel in saying that this is a one-shot. I don't like that this is a one-shot because I'll also say doesn't entirely feel like a one-shot. A one-shot feels like a one-and-done type thing. This feels like, oh, okay, a mini series is coming, or
Yeah.
an ongoing series is coming, but it kind of ends not unsatisfactorily, but it does have me going like, okay, ready to see the
Yeah,
next
where's number
part
two?
of this. Exactly. But then it's
Huh.
like, oh no, it's a one shot. It's like, Marvel, wake up. Please at least make this a mini series. 4 issue, 6 issue. If you're trying to cut costs, make it digitally. I prefer physical, but if you're trying to cut costs, at least like a digital mini series, because I would love to see more of this.
Yeah,
But
that
that's the stuff I've been reading this one.
awesome. Yeah, you know what, that episode of Visions was probably the best one overall, I think.
It's up there for me. Yeah.
Oh yeah, it's fantastic. I'm glad that they turned it into a comic, but yeah, it definitely needs more. Like if you're gonna go to the extent of
Yeah.
making the comic, let's flush that character way out. Like that's
Yeah.
so cool.
I'm
Yeah.
glad I got this, and I don't want to say like, oh, I wish I had never got it, but like you gave me the taste, like a tiny piece of a really yummy steak, and they're like, no, that's all you get. It's like, but I want more of the steak. I'm still hungry. You gave me a
Yes.
tiny piece. And it's like, no, we took it away. It's like, no, like, why did you even show me the piece of the steak in the first place? Why are you doing this to me?
Absolutely. Oh my god. That you know what, Brandon. That comes to our last question. And that is very simply, what is it that you want the folks out there to know?
I want them to know that I love making these comics. That I hope they're able to check out the page and back the comics and stuff. But ultimately, uh, just support indie creators as a whole. Not just me. There's a ton of indie creators out there, indie comic creators, not just comic creators, but with any media. There are indie creators out there
Hmm.
that have really great work. I mean, like I'm blanking on his name now. I know his first name is Dan. I think it's Dan Price. He has a book currently on Kickstarter called Bigfoot Knows Karate.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. Like when he had that first issue Kickstarter, like a few months ago or a year ago, I found out about it like a few days too late. Like it had just ended, and it was right up my alley because like I love the name alone caught me. As soon as I
Yeah.
saw the name, I was like, okay, I'm almost definitely backing this book. And then I found out like, crap, I missed the Kickstarter. And so when I saw that the issue 2 Kickstarter happened, I was like, holy crap, I got to back it like within the first 24 hours. And yeah, just there's all kinds of stuff out there like Bigfoot Knows Karate that no other publishers are making. At least the
Yeah.
big publishers aren't making. Like Marvel, DC, they're not making books like this. Image, Boom, they're making good books, but they're not making books like this.
Yep.
You have to go into the indie realm to find these very unique books like Bigfoot Knows Karate. So check out indie creators. Check out what's out there. Go beyond the popular landscape, and even go beyond what a lot of consider indie. I love Image. I love Boom. Go even further back from that. Check out the true indie stuff, the small dogs. Check out this stuff. Back this stuff. Support this stuff. Support stuff like Bigfoot Knows Karate. Support. There's a book coming out November 1st called The Theme of Thieves
Oh.
by a guy named Dog Pound Brown. And the book, I'm liking the book so far. It's a slow burn. This is going to be like issue 3 will be this Kickstarter that's coming out. It's a slow burn, but I'm okay with it. I like it because not entirely like equating it to this, but it has the pacing kind of like Watchmen, and I'm
Oh,
kind of down
okay.
for that. I'm kind of down for that. And it seems like issue 3 or issue 4, there's going to be some kind of critical thing that happens that it's kind of somewhat been building to. So I'm looking forward to it. But yeah, all that's to say, support indie creators. There's a lot of great stuff out there that not a lot of people know about.
I love it. It couldn't be truer. On that note, Brandon, absolutely, thank you so much for coming on the show tonight. It was a blast to have you, man.
Thank you, man. I had a great time. Thank you.
Awesome. And for the folks at home, absolutely. All the links down below. Check out the Kickstarter. It is live now. Go back it. This is an absolutely creepy, stunning, unexpected book from someone who doesn't like horror. So Dismay Avenue will be your thing too, I promise. Back it now. Get physical, digital, whatever suits you. And as always, like, comment, and subscribe. Let me know what you think, and we'll see you next time.
Golden age to present, digest to oversize. Never miss new comic day, yeah, no surprise. So where's my no prize? Check the letter columns. Can't find issue 2? Collector problems, cliffhangers, mysteries, you need answers. When did Batman become Green Lantern? I get it, true believer, not lying. Always up for an awesome summer crossover.